Vasistha said, "O Ram, I shall narrate to you how this creation appears to have emerged from the one pure, undivided cosmic being, even as dreams appear in the consciousness of the sleeping person." What we've got here, and what we've got to be careful about, is we're getting a philosophy. Something is realized. You attempt to state that realization in words. People ask questions, and then you try to answer these questions. Now, these questions can be answered either from that point of realization, but what very often happens is you might have a memory of that realization, and also you're trying to express things in concepts, so these concepts can take you away from that realization. So it's a very tricky business, and before you know it, you've got a system, you've got a philosophy, and Vasistha here is trying to explain something from the realization that there's only one pure, undivided cosmic being. That's the realization. But then you start asking questions about where it comes from and how is it going to end and how do you realize this being. You can lose the plot a bit. And it makes me realize two things. On a mundane level, the Yoga Vasistha probably wasn't written by one person, because sometimes it's very much to the point and other times it seems to miss it. If it was written by one person, then what we can say is that enlightenment comes and goes. We've always got this notion, which is handed down from certain impressions that we get, that enlightenment is permanent. And I wonder if that word permanent is being misconstrued, misunderstood. There is something absolute about enlightenment. It's unconditioned. It is timeless. But that doesn't mean to say that the awareness constantly resides in enlightenment. In order to work in the world, it cannot. The attention comes and goes. When the attention is at rest with itself, when it's not being hijacked, we could describe that as an enlightened condition. But very often it has to get out there and it has to focus on things. Once it's focused on something, if it seeks further distraction, then we can say, well, that's not enlightenment. But if after it's done what it needs to do, it rests once again in itself, then that's enlightenment. The point I'm trying to make here is that enlightenment is not a state. It is not a permanent thing. It is something that has to be constantly worked at. And I think it's quite possible that the author of the Yoga Vasistha wrote the Yoga Vasistha for a similar reason as to why I'm doing these videos. It's to constantly remind himself of how things are. And quite possibly he loses the plot sometimes. And I'm mentioning all this because I think this particular chapter does seem to lose the plot. I'll read on and see what you think. The universe is in fact the eternal, effulgent, infinite consciousness which generates within itself the knowable. which would be known as that which is to be, with an idea concerning its form, which is space, and with an inquiry concerning itself. So this seems alright. So what we've got is we've got the eternal, effulgent, infinite consciousness, which is at the heart of our being. It generates within itself the noble. So this is everything that is happening. And there's an idea concerning its form, which it says is space. And with an inquiry concerning itself. So there's an idea of inquiry here. There's a curiosity. And I think, again, this would be the cognitive process, that tendency to categorize and create relationships between things. So it's got this idea concerning its form, which is space. I suppose space, if you assume that things are going to, that there are things which exist, they have to have something that they exist within. Anyway, let's just press on. Thus is space brought into being. When, after a considerable time, the consciousness of creation becomes strong in the infinite being, the future jiva, living cosmic soul, also known as Hiranyagarbha, arises within it, and the infinite abandons, as it were, its supreme state to limit itself as the jiva. However, even then, Brahman remains the infinite, and there is no real transformation into any of these.